Well, good afternoon, everybody. Taylor Platt here with your latest forecast update. Today's October 13th, and looking at a fantastic week of weather across parts of the southeast and really across parts of most of the country, especially with high pressure dominating the bulk of the area. But there is a chance that, especially across parts of the south, that we could see our first frost coming up later on this week. So let's go ahead and dive on into it. First off, I wanted to take a look at the latest tropical update. You're going to see a lot of stuff going across social media with, Florida's going to get hit with another hurricane. Watch out, prepare now. I really don't think that's likely, at least at the moment. So let's go ahead and just talk about it. So right now, the National Hurricane Center has a 40% chance with this area of low pressure that's starting to get its act together, or will eventually start to get its act together a little bit more later on in the week as it continues to move to the northwest. Now, the thing that I really think is going to impact this is if it continues to work its way off to the west and it does get its act going and we do have a tropical system that develops, there's so much high pressure and the troughing action that's going across parts of the eastern U.S. that if it gets close to it, this will just end up getting kicked out to sea. So I don't really see this continuing to move and impact Florida and then eventually get into the Gulf and then could impact parts of the Florida Panhandle, Alabama, Georgia. I don't think it takes this path. I think it kind of takes this and goes out to sea, or it just kind of gets situated. It loses its steering currents in the atmosphere and it just kind of sits here across the Caribbean before eventually getting kicked out to the northeast. So I don't expect this to really impact parts of the United States. Of course, we'll watch it, but I wouldn't buy the hype that you're seeing across parts of social media right now. I've been seeing that a lot lately. It's just not good to have that, especially with people that are they're just done. They're done with the hurricane season in Florida. They're done with everything, and they don't want, there's unnecessary panic going on that's being caused by that stuff. So I will keep an eye on it, but I don't expect this to be a U.S. impact. And here is what I'm talking about. This is a look at the GFS model. And there's that wave that the Hurricane Center is talking about right here. And we'll just kind of move along here. And the GFS does have something that gets going in the Caribbean, but it sits there and moves to the west. So I'm not really concerned about that. But again, watching this just keeps moving, gradually getting itself organized. If this verifies, there would be a tropical system there. But notice how it just kind of sits there. It just kind of sits there in the Caribbean, and then eventually it gets picked up by that trough moving on through. According to the GFS, it just split. You get two areas of low pressure that get going there, and it just gets kicked out to sea. So that's why I'm saying it's not really something to be concerned about. Again, this is late Friday this week, and there could be a tropical system that is in the Caribbean at that point, impacting parts of Puerto Rico, parts of Hispaniola. But again, I don't expect it to get into the Gulf. See this big area of high pressure here? That's just going to keep everything to the south or to the east. Nothing can get in. It's just going to be like this giant wall that the tropical systems just can't get through. So that's what we're getting into this time of year. You're going to have more of those high pressure systems move in, and that usually starts to limit the chances of seeing a tropical system into parts or impacting parts of the United States. So let's talk about the forecast here across the south, especially here in Alabama. Again, there's a chance we'll see our first frost coming up later on into the week. There is a chance of some isolated showers late tonight as that front moves on through, but then we're dry. I'm just going to keep going through this. There might be a spotty shower or two on Tuesday across parts of the Gulf Coast area. Maybe some light showers coming in across parts of Tennessee with that main trough swinging on through, but I don't think it's going to be a big rainmaker. And then we'll just keep going through. Just look, high pressure, just dominating the forecast here, just dominating the region for the next several days. We're into Tuesday. This is Tuesday, October 22nd. Still no rain across the majority of the south. Into Thursday, the 24th, nothing. And then finally, this is way out there. I mean, this will likely change in later forecast runs, but at least on this run, it's not until Sunday the 27th before we start seeing some stormy weather, some widespread rain across parts of the south. So if that verifies, which I think there's a good chance that we will be dry for several days, it could be the end of October before we see some meaningful rainfall here across parts of the south. Now let's talk about those temperatures, because like I said, we're expecting the potential for a first frost for some areas later on into the week. We're warm today, and then tomorrow we see that front move on through later tonight. Parts of northern Alabama probably stay in the 60s for your Monday, 70s and 80s for the areas further to the south. And then here we go, Tuesday morning, temperatures starting off in the low 40s, maybe some upper 30s in your typical cooler spots. But that front still draped across parts of the Gulf Coast area. It does get hotter as you get back here towards Texas, staying in the 90s towards 100 degrees as we get into your Tuesday. But here in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, even further to the north across the Ohio Valley, looking at fantastic temperatures on Tuesday, likely staying in the 60s for a good portion of the region, or at least across parts of the Alabama area. And then as we get into your Wednesday morning, notice those temperatures. There could be some freezing temperatures across parts of Tennessee and into parts of Kentucky, maybe even parts of the Appalachians. But I think there's a chance that parts of northern Alabama, northern Georgia, especially a large portion of Tennessee, will see a first frost as we get into your Wednesday morning. I think it's an isolated frost for the Alabama area. I think your widespread frost is going to be further to the north. And then we'll do it all again on Thursday morning, Thursday night, or Wednesday night to Thursday morning. I think more people here in northern Alabama will get down into the 30s, but I think the frost potential will still be there, but I think it's going to be a little bit less, because I think the majority of our frost potential is going to be on Wednesday across parts of the northeastern part of the state. As I go back here, notice the temperatures on Wednesday morning down there closer to you see a little more of those pinks in there. So there's going to be temperatures closer to that freezing mark. Not quite there yet, I think. But notice as we get into Thursday morning, still seeing that 36 for Scottsboro, but see most of this area are going to be in the upper 30s. So there's going to be frost potential both days. I think they're isolated. I don't think we're looking at a widespread frost at this moment, but I think some places will see a first frost on Wednesday and Thursday. Temperatures to round out the week still staying in the 60s across the area. Temperatures getting back down into the upper 30s and lower 40s. Then eventually, as we get into Friday and then Saturday, we'll get back up into the 70s for the majority of the south, maybe even close to 80 degrees once again, closer to the coast. Now, taking a look at some longer-term temperatures, I'll pull this up here. This is going to be off the GFS downscaled ensemble, so this goes out several days. Starting off at the Gulf Shores area, again, very nice this weekend. Temperatures getting down into that 70-degree mark, then eventually getting back up towards that 80-degree mark as we get into parts of next week, talking about the 21st through 25th. For the Birmingham area, very nice. Again, temperatures low 60s for your Wednesday, then eventually getting back up into the upper 70s to around 80 degrees. Here's the Huntsville forecast going for the next several days. Same thing, temperatures down into the 60s to start the week, then eventually getting back up into the upper 70s to around 80. So there's going to be just fantastic weather coming up. I know we need the rain, we definitely do, but October is a very dry month for us. So this is not a shocker here across parts of the South and Alabama that we're not really seeing a lot of rainfall. I think that changes once we get into the beginning of November, as you saw there with the GFS model hinting that our next good chance of rain might not happen until the end of October. I think that's a good bet right now. But I think eventually once we get into November, that's when our pattern really starts to change, and we'll start to get some more stormy weather across parts of the South. Because remember, we'll get into our tornado season. Our tornado season starts in November, and it will continue all the way through May. So, again, that's usually when we'll start to see more rainfall impacting parts of our area. But that's not going to be the case, at least on the wider scale, for the next several days. Again, there could be a few isolated showers tonight across Tennessee into parts of northern Alabama, northern Georgia, but I think the bulk of the rain, when it comes, it won't be until the end part of the month. So that's what I got for you guys. Again, just look at the tropics. Nothing happening right now, but there could be a tropical system in the Atlantic later on this week. I don't think it impacts the United States, but we'll keep an eye on it. But as for just the tropics in general, very quiet right now, which is a nice sight to see after having a very hectic few weeks across parts of the Gulf Coast. And then your forecast across a good portion of the eastern United States for the next several days is looking fantastic. Fall weather is definitely on the way. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day and rest of your week. We'll be back here on Sunday and give you another update on your forecast.